Hello, I'm James, and I'm an old guy in Europe. Hello and welcome to another episode of An Old Guy in Europe. Again, this week with Carl Munson on his Good Morning Portugal Show from July of 2022, we discuss living with fire, changing our thoughts and positive thinking, and how moving to a new country can be an opportunity to claim or reclaim your authentic self. So as always, I invite you to please sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Good morning to you, James.
Yeah.
Nice t-shirt. Nice t-shirt.
Oh, yeah, it's my reminder in case I get lost.
Thank you for that. Very good. Very good. Where can we get ourselves one of those? Should anyone else need one?
It's actually from the Earth Island Institute. I don't know if they still are using that marketing campaign, but I thought it was brilliant.
Yes.
They call themselves Earth Island, and then you see Earth in the middle of the ocean of space. It's pretty poignant.
It is a very useful reminder. Thank you for bringing it to us this morning. I seem to have lost loads of comments suddenly. I'm not sure what's going on with the technology, but I've got them back now. That's good. Thank goodness for that. Okay. I'm going to have a little look at those and share a few on the screen. And we're going to multitask this morning because obviously we wanted to update you with the fire situation. Anything around you, James, over this weekend with the fire situation?
Nothing close and threatening, which is a breath of fresh air from my annual needing to evacuate my home in California because the whole state's on fire almost year round now. So fortunately that the weather's been actually pretty nice. One of the advantages, I don't know if it's happening where you are near the ocean, but it gets really hot for 2 or 3 days, and that forces the fog in and cools everything down. And today it's beautiful here on the coast, where it's sweltering in other areas.
But something you're used to from California, of course, as you described there.
Well, the fires, yes. The weather patterns from when I was in Santa Cruz, very, very similar. Hot for a few days, then the fog comes in, cools things down. And the fires more interior, very much like Portugal. And when I was living more to the interior, 3 different times over 2 or 3 seasons, I had to actually leave my home for threat of it burning down. So
my goodness,
I was actually looking forward to no fires in Portugal. I understood there were fires seasonally here, but coastally, fortunately, we don't have to worry about it too much.
Not too much, absolutely. So what's been on the mind of a Santa Cruz slug this week?
Well, when you wondered whether it was a performance or not, my first thought was, no, not a performance.
Let's see.
It's all about authenticity, I think.
Yes. Well said. Yes. Maybe too much performing in the world right now, and a little bit of a check-in with authenticity this morning. So, what's really going on for you then, James, this morning and so far these last 7 days since we last saw you?
Well, not unusually. I still have some residual thoughts about last week when we were talking about changing our thoughts, and I thought it might be helpful to get into sort of the practical application of that. It gets a little conceptual when you say change your thoughts,
Yes.
How does that happen? What do we do? And I gave an example of one of the ways of changing thoughts, which is changing the rule book or at least changing our understanding of it when it comes to social interaction and so forth. But the whole process goes to the notice, choose, act cycle. And a lot of the thinking part is in the noticing. So if we want to be positive thinkers, that's just the first step. The rest comes in the practice, the application, the choices, and the actions that we make based on those things. So for me, one of the places that I've really noticed it is in my practice of gratitude. I realize, for me anyway, the opposite of gratitude is complaining, because I've complained a lot in my head. I still do, not as much as I used to because of practice, but I'm talking years of practice, well over 10 years. I've been intentionally applying this practice of gratitude, and I still catch myself. I still notice that I'm complaining in my mind. Oh, that guy cut me off, or why are they being, judging people, whatever it is. Yeah. Complain. So the first step for me, almost always when I notice that, is my go-to deep breath. And that's a good one for almost anything. If you're stressed, if you're freaking out, if you're, whatever it is, breath is a great way to calm and get centered. So if I notice that I'm complaining in my mind, sometimes in my words, much, much less so now, I'll think it and not say it. When I catch myself, and that's a practice in and of itself, is catching your thoughts, catching the fact that you're complaining if you're looking for gratitude. Then taking a deep breath and say, what do I choose? What's my choice? Do I choose to continue complaining? There's nothing wrong with any choice. It's just, what do I choose for me right now?
Yes.
I don't want to be complaining. I want to be grateful. I want to appreciate my life. So, all right, so what do you need to do? For me, with gratitude, it's finding the things I'm grateful for in the exact thing I was complaining about. So in the example of getting cut off on the highway and just about needing it and just about dying, it feels like, oh my God, I almost died. And that will cause us to react in ways that are not quite so rational. And, that is calling that guy an idiot, and how could they let that kind of person on the road? And, my car, when I had one, was typically the place that I was the loudest in my negative expression. It's a great little,
when you have your suit of armor on,
you just don't want to let the rage take over, because that creates other problems. But so I'd catch myself complaining, and in that example, I'd say, okay, so what are you grateful for, James? I'm grateful I didn't die in that moment. That's my first reaction. It's like, oh my goodness, I'm grateful that didn't cause a major accident for everyone on the highway right now. I'm grateful I'm breathing. I'm grateful that, it looks like I'm going to make it safe home. I just find the things I'm grateful for in that very thing I was complaining about. And then the gratitude expands to, I'm grateful that I have people who care about me and that I love and who love me back. Those kinds of things. And my mood shifts, my energy shifts, my attitude shifts. That is one practice of creating positive thinking. Like gratitude would be positive thinking. So gratitude is one approach to changing our thoughts, to become positive thinkers. The example I gave last week of rewriting what I'm now referring to as the non-existent rule book. Last week we talked about how are you, and I was reminded of, for me in my life, as I was told to calm down a lot as a child, because I get very expressive and calm down. And so I got this subtle repeated message that there was something wrong with me, right? I was too expressive, and that the rules said you need to be calm and collected and essentially not authentic. So I got to think about authenticity in the work I've been doing. It's like, to hell with it. I'm going to be me. If people don't like it, I'm sorry, but that's who I am.
When did you make that decision?
Probably about 20 years ago. Fairly recent in my life.
Yeah, interesting.
a result of my work with Challenge Day, and they're a lot about authenticity and full expression. And I learned a lot about myself, and learning to suppress that right around age 7 is a really marked place in my life where being a fully expressed, authentic child was no longer okay in the world. So it reminded me of a saying that's going around, and it's a great thought to remind myself if I get caught up in, oh, what are they going to think about me? Somebody said, what someone else thinks of me is none of my business. And I like that one.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Right. And I think this is very, very, I do like using the word prescient, and I hope it's useful here, but very appropriate for people moving to the new country, James, who may have put up with the things you're describing all of their lives, of being told things as kids, carrying those messages with them for decades and decades. And here's the point, isn't it, where you can get to a new country. I mean, some find it easier than others, but it might be that the new country gives you license, or you give yourself license to say, okay, I'm going to be who I suspect I truly am underneath all these masks and conditionings and so on and so forth. And yes, it's going to be easy here because what other people think of me is none of my business. And I'm going to take full advantage of being in a new surrounding to have that happen. So shout out to anyone who's thought to themselves, yes, this is my moment to shake off all that conditioning and the masks that I've been wearing forever and ever. Would you see that as a useful jumping off point into the real you, or the real me, as it were?
Yes. The distinction I make is if you're running away from something, you're not going to succeed. It's going to follow you, whatever you're running away from.
Everlasting.
Yes, we talked about that last week with the baggage and the luggage thing,
Yes.
But for me, it's where it shows up mostly is in the expectations of the life you're leaving behind or the life you're moving away from. The people who already know who you are or think they do and expect you to be that person, if that's not consistent with what you believe or how you feel you are, then it's going to feel oppressive. And the opportunity of moving away, especially a far distance, is much less contact with those expectations and being able to live into and actually establish new expectations. People will expect me to be who I am as opposed to be that me I was before I left. And that is incredibly liberating. Is that if you can, again, that notice, choose, act, notice, who am I really? Is this who I want to be? The choice is what do I want to do about being fully expressed and being authentic? And then the action is being consistent with that. Again, taking the deep breath and going, what other people think about me is none of my business. I'm going to be me. There's plenty of people who want to be my friends and plenty of people who won't. That's okay. I'll have plenty of friends. I'll have plenty of people who love me being me.
Yes. Yeah. Incredible. Thank you very much for that insight today. I do love the idea of the deep breath, because like you said earlier on, just think positively, just be positively. It's easier said than done. And I think that really grounds it. That gets it in the body, doesn't it? For anyone who's struggling, just to tell themselves to be positive and thinking alone will do it. It's really good to get into the body, isn't it? And to take a physical approach to it, as well as just trying to outthink yourself, which is often quite difficult.
Yeah, especially for me.
Especially for you. You are our living example of the dangers of thinking every Monday morning. He does it for all. Yeah. Yes, indeed. So thank you very much for that this morning. The deep breath, folks, as simple as it is, sometimes the simplest things can be the most powerful, of course. And I'm going to co-opt the idea and urge you, along with James, which I suspect he would agree with me, to, when you find yourself in a challenging situation, to do that, to do the breath, to take the breath, rather than just having even more thoughts about your thinking. Change the perspective, change the context, and get physical, as Olivia Newton-John, I think, said in the 80s.
And the more you practice it, the more it becomes your default. So it becomes automatic.
Yes.
You don't have to be as conscious.
Yeah.
So your body starts to freak out, and then without having to think about it, your body says, "Oh, let's take a breath." Right?
Let's take a breath.
At first, it's noticing, choosing, and acting. Eventually, when you do that enough, it becomes part of your routine or habitual or your default.
Excellent. So let's set that as a bit of homework, perhaps, this week, a bit like the God Squad tip of the day. This is the thoughts from the Redwoods tip of the day, and homework for the rest of the week, if you want to take it on, is when you find yourself challenged, a nice out breath or in breath first, would you recommend, James?
In through the nose, I would say, because very often when we're in that situation, we have stopped breathing. So it'd be good to get some air.
So true, yes.
In through the nose, hold it maybe a second, and then.
There you go. Oh, yes. And maybe with the mantra, there you go. So after that, there I am. You are here. We're back in the room.
Life is good. Yeah, any positive thought is a great thing.